The call came through at exactly 11:34 p.m. on a Friday night. Marcus Donovan's private line rang just as he was reviewing quarterly reports. He frowned at the screen showing Emergency Services 911 as the caller ID. His tech specialist, Danny Costa, had programmed this line 2 years ago to receive misdirected emergency calls from a specific cell tower cluster in the Riverside district, a neighborhood where Marcus's organization collected protection fees but rarely got involved in street-level problems. Danny's idea had been simple: intercept emergency calls from their territory, respond faster than overwhelmed police, build community loyalty. Marcus had approved it, but never expected to actually answer one himself. That was what street soldiers were for. But tonight, something made him pick up. "Hello," he said, his voice carrying 3 decades of authority. What came through wasn't what he expected. A child's voice, high and desperate, sobbing so hard the words tumbled over each other. "Please, I need help. He locked my mom in the freezer. She can't breathe. There's no air. It's been 8 minutes already. Please come quick." Marcus sat up straight. "Kid, what's your location?" "Sunrise Coffee Shop on Maple and 3rd. Please hurry. It's been 8 minutes. Maybe 8.5 now. I'm counting, but I keep losing track. 8 minutes. Marcus's blood ran cold. Stay with me until the end, because what Marcus discovers in that coffee shop will change everything you believe about monsters and miracles. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get started. Marcus Donovan hadn't built his empire by being soft. For 32 years, since he was 18 years old, he had operated by 3 unbreakable rules. Trust nobody, show no weakness, feel nothing. Those rules had kept him alive in a business where sentiment got you killed and compassion got you buried. Tonight, he sat in his study on the top floor of the Donovan Tower, the 50-story building that bore his name and housed his legitimate businesses. Below him, Detroit sparkled with lights representing territory he controlled through shell companies, quiet arrangements, and the kind of influence that made politicians nervous. His second-in-command, James Sullivan, stood by the window nursing scotch. His tech specialist, Danny Costa, was running network diagnostics on the emergency call system they'd installed 6 months ago. His enforcement coordinator, Vincent Caruso, sat reviewing personnel reports. They'd been discussing expansion into the waterfront district when Marcus's phone interrupted. Now, with that child's voice screaming about 8 minutes in a freezer, Marcus felt something crack in walls he'd spent 3 decades building. "What's your name?" Marcus asked, his voice gentler than his men had heard in years. Emma Chen. My mom owns the Sunrise Coffee Shop. Her boyfriend Rick locked her in the walk-in freezer 8 minutes ago. Maybe 9 now." The numbers keep getting bigger. James's head snapped around. Vincent's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon. Danny stopped typing and looked up sharply. The boss didn't personally respond to street-level situations. Ever. Marcus knew the Sunrise Coffee Shop. Small place, locally owned, one of the few businesses in Riverside that his organization didn't collect from because it barely broke even. He'd driven past it countless times, never thinking twice about the people inside struggling to survive. "Emma, I'm coming to help your mom. But first, tell me exactly what happened." Emma's voice trembled through the phone. "Mom's boyfriend is Rick Castellano. He moved in 4 months ago after Mom hired him to fix the coffee machines. At first he was nice, but then he started drinking. Tonight he got really mad because Mom said she didn't love him anymore and wanted him to leave. Where is Rick now?" "In the front of the shop with his brother Tommy. They're both drinking beer and laughing. Tommy keeps saying Mom needs to learn respect, that she can't just throw out a Castellano. 9 minutes now. I'm sure it's 9 minutes." Marcus's jaw clenched, 2 of them, and the name Castellano triggered recognition. Tommy Castellano, short guy, tattoo of a bulldog on his neck? Yes, you know him? Marcus knew him. Tommy Castellano was muscle for the Rossi family, a rival organization that had been trying to expand into Riverside for months. This wasn't just domestic violence. This was a territorial play disguised as a boyfriend dispute. "Emma, where exactly are you hiding?" "In the supply closet behind the counter. Rick doesn't know Mom gave me her old emergency phone. She programmed your number into it last year." Marcus's mind raced. "She programmed my number? Why? Mom said you helped Mrs. Park when her store got robbed last year. That you sent men to walk her home at night. Mom wanted me to have a number that would actually answer if something bad happened. She said 911 takes forever in our neighborhood. The memory clicked into place. Mrs. Park's convenience store, 2 blocks from the coffee shop. Marcus had sent protection after her husband was hospitalized by street thugs. Small gesture, cost him nothing, but apparently Sarah Chen had noticed. Smart woman. Preparing for the day her dangerous boyfriend showed his true colors. Programming a direct line to the one person in Riverside with real power. How long since your mom stopped responding? Marcus asked. 3 minutes. She was begging them to let her out, saying she was sorry, that she'd be good. Tommy laughed and said, 8 minutes in a freezer teaches better lessons than words. Then she went quiet. 3 minutes of silence. 8 minutes total exposure. Marcus had seen enough bodies to know what hypothermia and oxygen deprivation did to a person in a commercial freezer. James had already moved to the door, pulling out his phone. After 15 years with Marcus, he knew when the boss made a decision, you moved fast and asked questions later. Emma, I need you to stay exactly where you are. Don't make any noise. I'm coming to get your mum out. Do you understand? You promise? The police never come when we call. The neighbors don't want to get involved. Are you really coming? The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. He thought about his sister Catherine. About the promises he'd made to protect her. About how those promises had shattered 30 years ago on a cold November night. I promise, Marcus said, meaning it with every fiber of his being. I keep my promises. What's Rick's last known location in the shop? Standing by the freezer door, Tommy's near the front window, watching the street. They keep talking about how 8 minutes in the cold will teach Mum not to disrespect the Castellano name. 8 minutes. The number was being burned into Marcus's brain with each repetition. The same way 8 years old had been burned there 3 decades ago. The same age Catherine had been. The same age Emma sounded. Vincent, James, Danny, with me. Now, Marcus commanded. Vincent grabbed his jacket, checking the Glock holstered at his side. James was already calling their driver. Danny secured his laptop and followed. In the elevator down to the garage, Marcus made rapid calculations. The Sunrise coffee shop was in disputed territory. Sending his men there to confront Tommy Castellano would signal that Marcus was protecting the business. The Rossi family would see it as aggression. It could spark a war. But leaving Sarah Chen to die in a freezer because of territorial politics wasn't something Marcus could live with. Not when an 8-year-old girl, who sounded exactly like Catherine, was counting minutes in a supply closet. Boss, James said carefully as the armored Mercedes pulled out of the garage. Tommy Castellano. If we move on him, the Rossis will take it as declaration. I know. They've been looking for an excuse to challenge us. This gives them one. I know. So we're doing this anyway? Marcus looked at his second-in-command. 8 minutes, James. That's how long Sarah Chen has been locked in a freezer by 2 men, using her as a territory marker. You tell me, do we let her die to avoid political complications? James's expression hardened with understanding. After 15 years together, he recognized this tone. No, boss, we don't. Vincent, when we get there, Tommy Castellano is yours. I want him alive but educated. Make sure he understands what happens to Rossi soldiers who operate in our territory. Vincent smiled coldly. Consider it done. Danny, you're on surveillance. Every camera, every phone in that shop gets documented. I want proof of what we found when we arrived. Proof that Sarah Chen was locked in that freezer dying while 2 drunk Castellanos laughed about it. Got it, boss. The drive to Maple and 3rd normally took 23 minutes. Their driver, Paulo, made it in 9, the Mercedes weaving through late-night traffic with practiced precision. Marcus kept Emma on the line the whole way. Emma, tell me about your mom. Sarah Chen, she makes the best vanilla lattes in Detroit. People come from all over. She has a secret ingredient, Mexican vanilla and cinnamon. She gives free coffee to homeless people when it's cold. How old are you, Emma? 8. I turn 9 next month. Mom was planning a party. Chocolate cake with raspberry filling. That's my favorite. 8 years old. The same age Catherine had been when Marcus lost her. The same age when the world proved itself too cruel for innocents to survive without protection. Marcus's grip tightened on his phone. My little sister loved chocolate cake too. Raspberry was her favorite. What's her name? Catherine. She was 8 when I lost her. I'm sorry, that must have hurt a lot. The simple empathy from this terrified child nearly undid him. It did. That's why I'm coming to help you, because 8-year-olds shouldn't have to hide in closets while their mothers die. Because I couldn't save Catherine, but I can save your mum. Before Marcus Donovan became Detroit's most feared operator, before he built an empire that stretched across 3 states, before he learned to feel nothing and trust nobody, he was Michael Chen. And he had a little sister named Catherine who believed her big brother could save anyone from anything. The memory hit him as the Mercedes turned onto Maple Street. Catherine with her pigtails and missing front teeth. Catherine who drew pictures of superheroes and insisted Michael was the best one. Catherine who followed him everywhere, asking a million questions, making their tiny apartment feel like home, even when their mother worked double shifts to keep lights on. Michael had been 18, working construction during the day and bouncing at a club at night. Catherine was 8, doing well in school, talking about becoming a teacher. Their mother, Susan, cleaned offices downtown and came home exhausted but always found energy for homework help. They lived rough, but they had each other. That was supposed to be enough. Then came the November night that changed everything. Michael was working late when his phone rang. His mother's voice fractured with panic. Break-in. Junkie looking for money, desperate and violent. Susan tried to protect Catherine, tried to put herself between daughter and intruder. But the man had a gun. By the time Michael reached the hospital, Catherine was barely conscious. 8 years old, hooked to machines that beeped like mechanical heartbeats, counting down to silence. She'd looked up at him with those trusting eyes that still believed he could fix anything. Mikey, she'd whispered, her voice barely audible above the medical equipment. Promise me you'll help other kids when they're scared. Promise you'll save them. I promise, Kath. I promise. She died holding his hand 8 minutes later. 8 minutes that felt like eternities as he watched the machines flatline and the doctors call time of death. 8 minutes that destroyed Michael Chen and gave birth to Marcus Donovan. The junkie got 7 years. Out in 4 with good behavior. 4 years for taking Catherine's whole life. For destroying their mother's will to live. For teaching Michael that the justice system was a joke and real power came from making your own rules. Susan died 2 years after Catherine, doctors calling it a heart attack, but Michael, knowing it was a broken heart, finally stopped beating. After the funeral, Michael Chen disappeared completely. What emerged was Marcus Donovan. Harder, colder, more ruthless than the world that had failed his family. He'd built an empire on the principle that real protection only came from power that made people too afraid to cross you. But somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten Catherine's dying request. Forgotten about helping scared kids. Built walls so thick around his heart that 8-year-old voices couldn't penetrate. Until tonight. Until Emma Chen called that misdirected emergency number. Until he heard 8 minutes repeated with the same desperate precision Catherine had used to count her own final moments. The Mercedes pulled up to the Sunrise coffee shop. Through the front window, Marcus could see 2 large figures moving around inside. The lights were on, casting warm glow that mocked the horror unfolding within. Emma, Marcus said into the phone. I'm here. Stay hidden. This will be over soon. 8 minutes is too long, but it's not too late. Marcus pushed through the coffee shop door. The bell chimed cheerfully. The smell hit him immediately. Rich coffee mixed with stale beer and the particular odor of drunk men feeling powerful. Rick Castellano stood near the back hallway. A bottle of Budweiser in one hand. He was big, maybe 6'3" and 260 pounds, with the kind of muscle that came from steroids and prison yards. His face was flushed with alcohol and aggression. Tommy Castellano, shorter but thicker, stood by the front window. The bulldog tattoo on his neck marked him clearly as Rossi Muscle. He held a beer in one hand, phone in the other, probably texting updates to his bosses about claiming Sunrise Coffee as Rossi territory. Both men turned when Marcus entered. Recognition flickered across Tommy's face. Everyone in Detroit's underworld knew Marcus Donovan. Well, Tommy said, his voice carrying alcohol-fueled confidence. Marcus Donovan himself. This is Rossi territory now. You lost your claim when you stopped collecting protection money from this dump. Marcus closed the door behind him. James, Vincent, and Danny spread out, flanking the space with practiced precision. Interesting claim, Tommy. When did the Rossi family start teaching lessons by locking women in freezers? Rick's eyes narrowed with confusion. Who the hell? 8 minutes, Marcus interrupted, his voice deadly calm. That's how long Sarah Chen has been locked in that freezer. 8 minutes of hypothermia and oxygen deprivation. You want to tell me what lesson requires that kind of suffering? Tommy laughed, setting down his beer. The lesson is that women in our territory show respect. Sarah Chen disrespected my brother. She needed education. Your territory? Marcus took a step forward. Something in his movement made both Castellano brothers instinctively back up. This shop is in Riverside. Riverside is mine. Has been for 15 years. Or did your bosses forget to mention that when they sent you to plant flags? Tommy's hand moved toward his jacket. Vincent's Glock appeared instantly, aimed with professional precision. I wouldn't, Vincent said quietly. Rick, drunk and stupid, tried to play tough. Sarah's my girlfriend. This is between us, domestic situation, not your business. It became my business when her 8-year-old daughter called my emergency line begging for help. When that child has been counting minutes in a supply closet while you two laugh about suffocating her mother. When you decided to use domestic violence as cover for a territorial incursion. Marcus walked past them toward the back hallway. Through a doorway, he could see the stainless steel door of the walk-in freezer. A chair was wedged under the handle. Simple, effective, terrifying. How long has it been since she stopped responding? Marcus asked. Rick shifted uncomfortably. Maybe 5 minutes. She was yelling before that, begging and crying. We told her she had to mean the apology, had to really understand what she did wrong. 5 minutes silent, 8 minutes total exposure to near zero temperatures in a sealed space. Marcus's voice could have frozen water. Do you know what happens to the human body during that time? Confusion sets in, drowsiness, eventually unconsciousness. Add restricted oxygen because you sealed the door and you're looking at brain damage. Possibly death. Tommy found his bravado again. She'll be fine. We were just scaring her, teaching a lesson about respecting Castellano men, about understanding that this neighborhood answers to the Rossi family now. Marcus turned to face them both. The Rossi family. Let me tell you what's going to happen to the Rossi family's little expansion plan. James had moved to block the front door. Vincent kept his weapon trained on Tommy. Danny was already working his phone, documenting everything with photos and video. Vincent, get that freezer open, now. Vincent handed his gun to James and moved to the back hallway. He pulled the chair away and yanked open the heavy steel door. Frigid air billowed out in a cloud. Sarah Chen lay crumpled on the freezer floor among bags of coffee beans and milk crates. Her lips had taken on a blue tinge. Her breathing was shallow, barely visible. Ice crystals had formed in her dark hair where her breath had condensed and frozen. Her coffee shop uniform, white shirt and black apron, provided almost no protection against temperatures hovering near 0 degrees. Boss, Vincent called. She's alive but barely conscious. We need to move fast. Marcus crossed to the freezer in 3 long strides. Up close, Sarah looked worse. Her hands were raw from pounding the door, fingernails broken from clawing at steel. But she was breathing. That was what mattered. He knelt beside her and carefully gathered her into his arms. She was light, too light, the kind of thinness that came from working long hours and forgetting to eat. Sarah, he said gently. Emma called me. I'm going to get you warm and get you help. Her eyes fluttered open, brown and confused. Emma, she whispered through blue lips. Where's Emma? Safe, hidden exactly where she should be. You did good, Sarah. You protected your daughter. Sarah's eyes filled with tears that froze on her lashes. 8 minutes. Tommy kept yelling 8 minutes through the door. Said that's how long lessons take. I couldn't breathe to answer anymore. The admission broke something in Marcus's chest. This woman, slowly freezing, had stayed conscious as long as possible, not to save herself, but to make sure Emma stayed hidden and safe. That fierce maternal instinct reminded him achingly of his own mother trying to shield Catherine. James appeared with an emergency thermal blanket from the car's extensive first aid kit. Marcus wrapped it around Sarah's shivering form while Vincent called Dr. Rodriguez with an update. Patient is severely hypothermic, conscious but disoriented. Possible oxygen deprivation. Multiple contusions on hands from attempting escape. ETA to Memorial Hospital 8 minutes. 8 minutes to save her life. The same amount of time the Castellano brothers had spent trying to take it. Marcus carried Sarah through the coffee shop. As they passed Rick and Tommy, Sarah's eyes landed on them. No anger crossed her face, just exhaustion. Resignation. The look of someone who'd known this relationship would end badly, but had hoped against hope. "Emma?" Marcus called out softly. "It's safe. You can come out." The supply closet door cracked open, and a small face peered out. Emma Chen looked exactly like Catherine had at 8. Dark hair in a messy ponytail, eyes too old for her age, wearing pajamas covered in cartoon stars. She held a stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. When she saw her mother wrapped in the thermal blanket, Emma's face crumpled. She rushed forward. "Mom, are you okay?" Sarah managed a weak smile. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Thanks to your very smart thinking, you saved me, baby." Emma looked up at Marcus. "You came. You promised, and you actually came. It's been 8 minutes and 45 seconds since I first called." The precision of her timekeeping hit Marcus harder than any bullet. This child had been counting every second of her mother's suffering with the same desperate accuracy Catherine had used. "I keep my promises," Marcus said quietly. James had already ushered Sarah and Emma toward the door and the waiting Mercedes. Vincent stood guard while Danny finished documenting the scene. Photos of the freezer, the chair wedge, the beer bottles, everything that proved what had happened here tonight. Marcus turned back to the Castellano brothers. Rick looked confused and worried. Tommy looked angry but calculating. He was smart enough to realize the situation had shifted dramatically. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Vincent is going to have a conversation with both of you about your future. Danny has documented everything. The freezer, the 8 minutes, Sarah's condition, your presence, your claims about Rossi territory. This evidence goes 2 places." He pulled out his phone and made a call. It was answered on the first ring. "Michael, it's Marcus. I need 2 favors." Michael Torino was Marcus's connection to law enforcement. A detective who understood that sometimes justice required unconventional partnerships. "What do you need?" "Evidence of attempted murder in Riverside. 2 suspects, Rick and Tommy Castellano. The victim is Sarah Chen, owner of Sunrise Coffee Shop. She was locked in a commercial freezer for 8 minutes. We have medical documentation, witness testimony from her 8-year-old daughter, photos, video, everything you need for an airtight case. I'll have units there in 10 minutes. The suspects? Being detained by concerned citizens until you arrive." Marcus ended the call and made another. This one was answered by a gravelly voice. "Donovan, this better be important. Antonio Rossi, head of the Rossi family. Marcus's primary rival for the past decade. A man who understood the rules of their world, territory, respect, and the consequences of overstepping boundaries. Antonio, we need to talk about your soldier Tommy Castellano." There was a pause on the other end. "What about him?" "He's in my territory right now. In a coffee shop on Maple and 3rd. He and his brother locked the owner in a freezer for 8 minutes as part of what he claims was your expansion into Riverside. Want to tell me when you authorized moving on my territory?" The pause was longer this time. "I authorized no such thing. Tommy Castellano was told to assess opportunities, not create incidents." "Well, he created an incident. Locked a woman in a freezer, traumatized her 8-year-old daughter, and claimed it was Rossi territory. Police are en route. Evidence is documented. The victim will testify. This is going to be public, Antonio. Attempted murder with a child witness, the kind of thing that brings heat on everyone." Antonio's voice turned cold. "Where is Tommy now?" "With my people. You have 2 choices. Option 1, I turn him over to the police with everything we've documented. He goes to prison, tells stories about Rossi family operations to reduce his sentence, and your organization gets investigated for conspiracy to commit attempted murder. Option 2, you disavow Tommy completely. He was operating without authorization. You knew nothing about his activities. You're horrified that one of your men would do something so brutal, and you guarantee personally guarantee that no Rossi soldier sets foot in Riverside again, ever. Marcus could hear Antonio breathing on the other end, calculating angles, weighing options. And Tommy? Goes to prison. But he goes alone. Not as a Rossi soldier, as a rogue operator who acted without sanction. Your family stays clean. My territory stays mine. Everyone walks away from this without a war. Another long pause. Done. Tommy Castellano is disavowed. He was operating without family authorization. The Rossi family will issue a formal statement to that effect. Riverside remains your territory, you have my word. Good. One more thing, Antonio. Sarah Chen owns the Sunrise Coffee Shop. She's under my protection now. Officially. Any business in Riverside that I choose to protect is off limits to collection, intimidation, or any other form of interference. Are we clear? Crystal clear. I'll make sure my people know. Marcus ended the call and looked at Tommy Castellano, whose face had gone pale as he processed what he just overheard. Your boss just threw you under the bus. Disavowed completely. You're going to prison for attempted murder, Tommy, but you're going alone. Tommy's bravado crumbled. Wait, you can't. We were just scaring her. It was Rick's idea. I just came along to... 8 minutes, Marcus interrupted. You stood there counting 8 minutes while a woman suffocated in a freezer. You laughed about teaching her respect. You told her 8-year-old daughter that this was a lesson. You used domestic violence as cover for a territorial play that your own boss didn't authorize. Rick, finally understanding the magnitude of their situation, tried to plead. Please, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I love Sarah. I love them both. It just got out of hand. I was drunk and angry and... Love, Marcus said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Let me tell you what I know about love. Love doesn't lock people in freezers. Love doesn't count 8 minutes of suffering like it's entertainment. Love doesn't terrorize 8-year-old children. What you're feeling isn't love, Rick. It's possession. And it ends tonight. Sirens wailed in the distance. Vincent stepped forward. Boss, what do you want me to do with them until the police arrive? Make sure they don't leave. And Vincent, make sure they understand that if they ever mention Sarah or Emma Chen again, if they even think about them after they get out of prison, there will be consequences that no police protection can prevent. Vincent's smile was cold and professional. Consider it done. Marcus walked outside where James was helping Sarah into the Mercedes. Emma sat beside her mother, still holding her hand like she might disappear if contact was broken. Sarah looked up as Marcus approached. Despite everything she'd been through, there was wariness in her expression. The look of someone who'd learned that help always came with a price. Thank you for saving my life, she said carefully. Emma told me you came as soon as she called. I don't understand why a stranger would do that, but I'm grateful. You're not a stranger, Marcus said. You programmed my number into Emma's phone. You knew who I was and what I could do. That makes you smart, strategic, someone who plans for worst-case scenarios. Sarah's expression shifted slightly. I heard about how you helped Mrs. Park. I hoped, if something bad happened, maybe you'd help us too. I didn't expect you to come personally. Your daughter is 8 years old, the same age my sister was when I lost her. When Emma called counting 8 minutes like every second mattered, it was like hearing Catherine's voice again. I couldn't ignore that. Wouldn't ignore that. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. They kept yelling 8 minutes through the door. Like it was funny. Like my life was worth 8 minutes of their entertainment. Emma pressed closer to her mother. But it's over now. The man promised to help us, and he did. That's what heroes do. They keep promises. The simple faith in those words nearly broke Marcus's carefully maintained composure. We need to get your mom to the hospital. Dr. Rodriguez is waiting. He's the best. I can't afford a private doctor, Sarah said. You don't need to afford it. It's handled. I've learned that nothing is free, Mr. Donovan. Eventually, you'll want something in return. Marcus appreciated her directness. What I want is for 8-year-old girls to not have to hide in closets counting 8 minutes while their mothers die. What I want is to keep a promise I made to my sister 30 years ago. If helping you accomplishes that, then we both get what we need. The drive to Memorial Hospital took 8 minutes. Marcus sat in the back with Sarah and Emma. The little girl hadn't let go of her mother's hand, and Sarah hadn't let go of consciousness, though it clearly cost her enormous effort. "Tell me about the coffee shop," Marcus said, keeping Sarah alert. Sarah's voice was weak but growing stronger as the car's heater warmed her. "Started it 4 years ago, after Emma's father died. He was a Marine, died in Afghanistan. The military death benefit and his life insurance gave me enough to lease the space and buy equipment." "Did it yourself?" "Every bit. Refinished tables from yard sales, painted walls. Learned the espresso machine from YouTube. People thought I was crazy. Single mother trying to start a business in Riverside. But I wanted Emma to see that you don't need a man to build something good. Just hard work and hope." "Mom makes the best coffee in Detroit," Emma said proudly. "Tell him about the secret ingredient." Sarah actually smiled slightly. "Mexican vanilla and a tiny pinch of cinnamon in the vanilla lattes. Customers started requesting it by name. I charge $4.50 for a small, $5.50 for a medium. It's my signature drink." $4.50. $5.50. Specific prices for a specific creation. Marcus filed the information away. A woman who'd lost her husband, raised a daughter alone, built a business from nothing while maintaining hope. That kind of strength was rare, precious, worth protecting. At Memorial Hospital, Dr. Rodriguez was waiting at the private entrance Marcus's organization used for situations requiring discretion. He was in his 60s with steady hands and a calm demeanor that made patients trust him instantly. Dr. Rodriguez took one look at Sarah and went to professional mode. Hypothermia, oxygen deprivation. How long was she exposed? 8 minutes in a commercial freezer, 0 to 10 degrees. Door was wedged shut. And she's conscious? Remarkable. Dr. Rodriguez gestured to a wheelchair. "Let's get her inside. Young lady," he addressed Emma. "Your mother is going to be fine, but I need to run some tests and get her warmed up properly." Emma nodded solemnly. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand. "Go with Marcus, baby. I'll be okay." As Dr. Rodriguez wheeled Sarah toward examination rooms, Emma stood in the hallway looking lost. Marcus knelt to her eye level, the same gesture his sister Catherine had always loved. "Your mom's in good hands. Dr. Rodriguez is the best." "Will she really be okay?" She looked so cold, her lips were blue. "She'll recover completely. The doctor will make sure of it." Emma's eyes welled with tears. "I counted 8 minutes and 45 seconds from when I first called you until you arrived. I thought that was too long. I thought Mum might die because I couldn't reach 911 fast enough." Marcus's heart clenched. "You saved your mother's life, Emma. That quick thinking, that emergency phone your mum programmed, all of that was smart preparation. Your mum taught you well. She said powerful people don't always help, but sometimes, if you're lucky, you find the one who will. I guess we got lucky." "I guess we both did." Emma studied his face with intensity that reminded him of Catherine. "Are you a bad man who does good things, or a good man who sometimes does bad things?" The question was so perceptive, so cutting, that Marcus didn't have an immediate answer. "I think I'm someone who learned the world doesn't always reward goodness, so I became powerful enough to make my own rules. Sometimes those rules help people, sometimes they hurt people, but tonight they're helping you and your mum. That's what matters right now." Emma seemed satisfied with that answer. She yawned, exhaustion finally catching up with adrenaline. "Can I see my mum now?" Dr. Rodriguez emerged with a reassuring smile. "Your mother is asking for you. She's warming up nicely and all her vitals are good. No permanent damage. She's very lucky." Emma rushed into the examination room. Through the window, Marcus watched mother and daughter embrace, both crying now that immediate danger had passed. James appeared at his shoulder. Vincent called. "Tommy and Rick are in custody. Detective Torino took their statements. Both are claiming it was an accident, that they didn't mean to hurt anyone. But the evidence is solid. 8 minutes locked in a freezer, child witness, medical, documentation. They're looking at attempted murder charges." "Good. What about the Rossi response?" Antonio put out a statement. "Tommy Castellano was operating without authorization. The Rossi family is cooperating fully with law enforcement. They've formally recognized Riverside as your territory. No more incursions." Marcus nodded. The territorial dispute was settled. But the larger problem remained. Sarah and Emma couldn't go back to their apartment above the coffee shop. Rick had keys. Even in custody, his friends might cause trouble. "I'm moving them to the safe house on Parkview," Marcus said. 3-bedroom apartment, secure building. They can stay there as long as needed. James was quiet for a moment. Boss, this is different for you. Getting personally involved, making promises. The men are going to notice. Let them notice. Your reputation is built on being untouchable, emotionally detached, making business decisions without sentiment. This could be seen as weakness. Marcus thought about Catherine. About 8 minutes counting down to silence. About Emma's voice on the phone repeating 8 minutes, like every second mattered. About Sarah's lips turning blue in a freezer because 2 men thought 8 minutes of suffering was funny. 30 years ago, my 8-year-old sister died because I was powerless to protect her. I've spent every day since building power, so I'd never be helpless again. But power without purpose is just emptiness. Sarah and Emma gave me purpose. Let the men think what they want. James nodded slowly. For what it's worth, boss, I think you made the right call tonight. Vincent arrived with an update from the crime scene. Danny finished documentation. We've got everything. Photos of Sarah's injuries, the freezer setup, the chair wedge, timestamps showing 8 minutes of exposure. Rick and Tommy's beer bottles with fingerprints. Text messages from Tommy to Rossi contacts about claiming territory. It's airtight. Any complications? Rick's lawyer is already trying to negotiate, offering to plead to lesser charges if we don't push attempted murder. Detective Torino told him to pound sand. With an 8-year-old witness and medical evidence this strong, the DA wants the full prosecution. Marcus felt a grim satisfaction. Justice through the legal system for once. Catherine had never gotten that, but Sarah would. There's something else, Vincent continued. Danny did some digging into Rick Castellano's background. Turns out this isn't his first incident. 2 previous girlfriends filed restraining orders. One ended up in the hospital with broken ribs. Charges were dropped when Rick's lawyer convinced her she couldn't prove anything. The information made Marcus's blood run cold. Rick wasn't just an abusive boyfriend who'd gone too far. He was a pattern predator who'd perfected his hunting technique. How many women? At least 5 that we could confirm. Probably more who never reported. Rick targets single mothers in financial distress. Offers to help, moves in, then starts the control and violence cycle. And Tommy was helping him? Tommy provided muscle and Rossi family backing, made the women too scared to report. Rick gets to play out his control fantasies. Tommy gets to claim territory for the Rossis. Win-win for them. Marcus felt the rage building. 8 minutes in a freezer was bad enough. But discovering it was part of a serial pattern, that Sarah was just the latest victim in a long line of terrorized women, made it personal in a way that transcended business. I want everything, Marcus said. Every victim. Every incident. Every piece of evidence that Rick Castellano is a serial predator. We're going to make sure the DA has enough to put him that away for decades. Already working on it, boss. Danny's pulling records now. Dr. Rodriguez approached with Sarah's chart. She's going to be fine. I want to keep her overnight for observation, but she should be able to go home tomorrow afternoon. Well, wherever home is at this point. About that, Marcus said. He entered the examination room where Sarah sat in a hospital bed, surrounded by warming blankets and monitoring equipment. Emma was curled up beside her, finally sleeping. Sarah looked better already. Color had returned to her face, though exhaustion was evident. Mr. Donovan, Dr. Rodriguez says I'm going to be okay. That 8 minutes wasn't long enough to cause permanent damage. I was lucky. You were tough. Not many people could stay conscious that long in those conditions. I had to. Emma was hiding. If I'd passed out, I couldn't make noise to distract Rick and Tommy. Couldn't make sure they stayed focused on me instead of searching for her. The admission revealed everything about Sarah's priorities. Not self-preservation. Daughter protection above all else. You can't go back to the apartment above the shop, Marcus said. Rick had keys. Even in custody, it's not safe. Sarah's shoulders sagged. I know, but I don't have anywhere else. No family in Detroit. Can't afford a hotel with the shop closed while I recover. I have an apartment you can use. Parkview building. 3 bedrooms. Secure. You can stay there as long as you need. Sarah's wariness returned. I can't afford. No rent. No questions. Just a safe place for you and Emma to recover. I've learned that nothing is free, Mr. Donovan. Eventually you'll want something in return. That's how powerful men work. They help when you're desperate, then they own you. The observation was painfully accurate. Marcus had used that exact tactic in business countless times. Create dependency, then exploit it. But this was different. I understand your skepticism. You have every reason not to trust me. But I'm going to help you anyway. What you do with that help is your choice. Stay in the apartment or find somewhere else. Accept my protection or handle things yourself. I'm not trying to own you, Sarah. I'm trying to give you options. Emma stirred slightly, then settled back to sleep. Sarah looked at her daughter, then at Marcus. Why? Really? Don't give me the line about your sister. There's more to it than that. Marcus sat in the chair beside the bed. You programmed my number into Emma's phone a year ago. After I helped Mrs. Park, you were planning ahead, preparing for the possibility that Rick would show his true colors. That's not the behavior of a victim. That's the behavior of a strategist. I knew he was dangerous, saw the signs, but I thought I could manage it. Thought if I was careful, if I didn't trigger him, Emma and I would be safe until I could save enough money to move. You were careful. You prepared an escape plan. You taught Emma what to do in an emergency. The fact that you survived 8 minutes in that freezer is testament to your planning and your toughness. But you can't plan for everything alone. Sometimes you need allies. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. What happens tomorrow? We can't stay in the hospital forever. The shop is a crime scene. My entire life is in that apartment above it. Emma's clothes, her school supplies, my business records, everything. James and Danny will pack up your apartment tomorrow. Bring everything to the Parkview place. The coffee shop will be released as a crime scene within 48 hours. I'll have a cleaning crew restore it to working condition. I can't afford a cleaning crew. You're not paying for it. Mr. Donovan? Sarah, stop. Let me help. I have resources. You have needs. This isn't charity. This is me using my power for something that actually matters. For once in 30 years, I'm keeping a promise I made to my dying sister. Let me do that. Sarah's eyes glistened with tears she was too proud to shed. What do you get out of this? Really? Purpose. For 30 years I've been powerful and feared and empty. Helping you and Emma is the first time since Catherine died that I felt like my power was good for something beyond making money and destroying enemies. So we're your redemption project? Maybe. Is that so bad? Sarah laughed softly, a sound that carried exhaustion and relief in equal measure. I suppose I've been worse things. At least this comes with a safe apartment and cleaning services. They talked for another hour. About Sarah's late husband, about the coffee shop and her dream of expanding, about Emma's love of school and drawing, about how Rick had seemed normal at first, then slowly revealed his true nature through small acts of control that escalated into violence. Marcus listened without judgment. He'd seen this pattern countless times. Good people making understandable choices that led to terrible situations. Sarah wasn't weak or stupid. She'd been unlucky enough to trust the wrong person. There's something you should know, Marcus said. Rick Castellano has done this before, multiple times. We found records of at least 5 previous women he targeted. Single mothers, financially struggling, isolated. He has a pattern. Sarah's face went pale. He told me I was special, that he'd never felt this way about anyone before. Classic predator technique. Make you feel unique while following the exact same playbook. The good news is that evidence of his pattern strengthens the case against him. The DA is building attempted murder charges. With your testimony, Emma's witness account, medical evidence, and his history, he's looking at 20 years minimum. 20 years, Sarah repeated. Emma will be 28 when he gets out, an adult, safe. The relief in her voice was palpable. And Tommy? Facing the same charges, plus conspiracy, plus his connection to Rossi family operations, which is bringing federal attention. Tommy's not getting out anytime soon either. Sarah closed her eyes. Good. Is it wrong that I want them to suffer? That I hope prison is hard on them? It's human. They spent 8 minutes making you suffer for entertainment. Wanting consequences for that isn't wrong. It's justice. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the Parkview apartment at 9. James and Danny had worked through the night, packing up Sarah and Emma's belongings from the apartment above the coffee shop and relocating everything to the safe house. The three-bedroom unit was in one of Marcus's better buildings. Secure entrance. Doorman who knew how to be discreet. The kind of place where people asked no questions and minded their own business. Sarah was released from the hospital at 10. She looked healthier, color fully returned, though moving carefully like someone who'd been through trauma. Emma held her mother's hand, not letting go even for a moment. When they arrived at the apartment, Sarah stood in the doorway taking it all in. Clean lines, neutral colors, furniture that was quality without being ostentatious, everything someone would need for an extended stay. "This is too much," Sarah said. "It's what I have available," Marcus replied. Emma had already run into one of the bedrooms, squealing with delight at finding her stuffed animals and books arranged on shelves. "Mom, they brought everything, even Mr. Whiskers." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "You moved all our things, every single thing. Danny's very thorough. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me. Just let Emma be 8 years old again. Let her stop counting minutes in closets. Let yourself heal. That's all the thanks I need." Sarah walked to the window overlooking the tree-lined street below. "I need to talk to you about the coffee shop. My landlord called this morning, said he's not responsible for repairs from what happened, threatened to evict me for running a dangerous business that attracts criminal activity." Marcus had expected this. "Your landlord won't be a problem." "What does that mean?" "It means that as of this morning, you own the building. Free and clear. No mortgage, no landlord, no one who can threaten eviction." Sarah spun around. "What? That's impossible. I don't own the building. I have a lease that's up for renewal in 3 months and—" She stopped. "You bought the building?" "Yes." "Why would you do that?" "Because you deserve to own something no one can take away from you. Because Emma should see that her mother's hard work has real value. Because the Sunrise Coffee Shop is exactly the kind of business that makes a neighborhood worth living in. And because I can." Sarah walked to the kitchen table and sat down heavily. "I can't accept this. Buying an entire building? That's not help. That's too much. I'm not buying you. I'm buying a building and giving you ownership. What you do with it is your choice. Keep running the coffee shop. Sell it and use the money to start over somewhere else. Convert it into something completely different. It's yours to decide. There has to be a catch." Marcus sat across from her. "The catch is that 30 years ago my 8-year-old sister died because I was powerless. I've spent 3 decades building power so I'd never feel helpless again. But power without purpose is emptiness. You and Emma gave me purpose. This isn't charity, Sarah. It's me finally doing what Catherine asked me to do before she died." "What did she ask?" "To help other scared kids. To save them. I built an empire but forgot the promise. Until Emma called counting 8 minutes like every second mattered. Until I heard my sister's voice again after 30 years of silence." Sarah's tears finally spilled over. "Your sister, Catherine? She was 8 when you lost her." "Yes. And Emma is 8. Yes. And 8 minutes in that freezer was the same amount of time I held Catherine's hand while she died. While machines counted down her final moments. While I made a promise I forgot until your daughter reminded me." Sarah reached across the table and took Marcus's hand. The gesture was simple but profound. "Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for not letting Emma count 8 minutes alone. Thank you for being someone who actually helps, instead of someone who looks away." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you for trusting me, for programming my number into Emma's phone, for being smart enough to plan ahead even when you hoped you'd never need the plan." Emma appeared in the doorway. "Are you two friends now?" "Friends hold hands." Sarah smiled through her tears. "Yes, baby, we're friends." "Good, because I drew a picture for Mr. Donovan. Do you want to see it?" Emma held up a crayon drawing. 3 stick figures, a tall one in dark clothes, a medium one with long hair, and a small one with pigtails. They were standing in front of a building with a sign that said coffee $4.50. The tall figure had a speech bubble that said, 8 minutes is too long. The drawing captured everything. Emma's understanding of what happened, her recognition of Marcus's role, the $4.50 price for Sarah's signature vanilla latte, the 8 minutes that had defined their crisis and Marcus's response. "This is beautiful, Emma," Marcus said, his voice rough with emotion. "That's you saving us. See, you said 8 minutes was too long, and you were right. You came fast. You kept your promise. Do you know what heroes do? Emma continued, her 8-year-old wisdom cutting straight to truth. They keep their promises, even when it's hard, even when it's scary. You're a hero because you keep your promises. The simple faith in those words nearly undid Marcus completely. He knelt down to Emma's level. Your mum is the real hero. She stayed conscious for 8 minutes in that freezer to protect you. She programmed my number into your phone a year ago because she knew to plan ahead. She built a business from nothing after your dad died. That's heroic. Can't you both be heroes? Emma asked. Sarah laughed. She has a point. Maybe we're all heroes in our own ways. Marcus stood up. I should let you both rest. Dr. Rodriguez wants you to take it easy for a few days, Sarah. The coffee shop will be ready to reopen by Monday. The cleaning crew is working this weekend. When will we see you again? Emma asked. Marcus hadn't thought that far ahead. He'd been focused on the immediate crisis, saving Sarah, securing the apartment, dealing with Rick and Tommy. But Emma's question implied an ongoing relationship, continued involvement in their lives. I'd like to stop by occasionally, Marcus said carefully. Make sure you're both doing okay. Maybe try one of those vanilla lattes Emma keeps bragging about. $4.50 for a small, Sarah said smiling. But for you, free. You've earned lifetime free coffee. No, Marcus said firmly. I'll pay $4.50 like everyone else. Your business needs revenue. I'm not going to undermine that by taking freebies. Sarah's expression softened. You really do understand how to help without taking over. I'm learning. 30 years of running an empire teaches you how to control. You and Emma are teaching me how to support. There's a difference. Over the next 3 months, a pattern developed. Every Saturday morning, Marcus would arrive at the Sunrise coffee shop at exactly 9 a.m. He'd order a small vanilla latte for $4.50, sit at the same table by the window, and spend an hour reading the newspaper while Emma did homework nearby. Sometimes Sarah would join him for coffee. They'd talk about the business, about Emma's school, about neighborhood changes. Other times, she'd be busy with customers, and Marcus would just sit quietly, a consistent presence that said, "You're not alone," without being intrusive. The coffee shop thrived. Sarah's signature vanilla latte became legendary in Riverside. People came from across Detroit to try the $4.50 drink that food bloggers called worth every penny. The business grew enough that Sarah hired 2 employees, both single mothers from the neighborhood who needed work. Rick Castellano pleaded guilty to attempted murder. The DA had built an overwhelming case, Emma's testimony, medical evidence, the pattern of previous victims, everything. He got 25 years without parole. Tommy Castellano got 30. The additional time for his Rossi family connections and conspiracy charges. 6 months after that terrifying Friday night, Marcus stood outside the Sunrise coffee shop on a Saturday morning. The storefront had been completely renovated. New windows, fresh paint, a professional sign that read, Sunrise Coffee, home of the $4.50 vanilla latte. Through the windows, he could see Sarah behind the counter laughing with customers, while Emma helped organize pastries in the display case. The neighborhood had changed in subtle ways. More families walking the streets, small businesses opening instead of closing. The kind of organic revitalization that happened when people felt safe and invested in their community. Marcus's organization had quietly adjusted its operations in Riverside. Less extraction, more genuine protection. Word had spread that Donovan's people actually protected businesses instead of just collecting fees. The territory was more stable than it had been in years. Some rivals had tried to take advantage, seeing the changes as weakness. They'd learned quickly that Marcus was still as ruthless as ever when threatened. The difference was he now channeled that ruthlessness toward protecting people instead of just protecting territory. The bell chimed as Marcus entered. Emma looked up from the pastry display and immediately ran over. "Mr. Donovan, you're here." Right on time like always. Sarah smiled from behind the counter, already preparing his order. "Small vanilla latte, $4.50? You know me too well. You've been coming every Saturday for 6 months. I'd be a terrible businesswoman if I didn't remember my most reliable customer's order." Marcus handed her a $5 bill. "Keep the change." 50-cent tip on a $4.50 drink? Big spender, Sarah teased. Emma tugged on Marcus's sleeve. I made something for you at school. We had to write about our heroes. She pulled out a carefully written essay. The title read, My Hero Kept His Promise. The text described the night of the freezer, the 8 minutes of fear, the man who came when others wouldn't, and the lesson about keeping promises even when it's hard. But it was the final paragraph that made Marcus's throat tight. My hero taught me that being strong doesn't mean never getting scared. It means caring about people even when it's dangerous. He lost his sister when she was 8, like me. He couldn't save her, but he saved my mom. He saved me. That's what real heroes do. They keep the promises they couldn't keep before. They save the people they couldn't save the first time. They turn their sad stories into happy endings for someone else. Marcus read it twice, then a third time. Emma watched him carefully. Do you like it? It's the best thing anyone's ever written about me, Marcus said truthfully. Sarah joined them, coffee in hand. She got an A+. The teacher said it was the most moving essay in the class. Marcus knelt down to Emma's level, the gesture that had become familiar over these 6 months. You know what I learned from you and your mom? What? That 8 minutes can change everything. 8 minutes of suffering. 8 minutes of rescue. 8 minutes of a little girl being brave enough to call for help. 8 minutes that reminded me why I built my empire in the first place. To help scared kids? Emma asked. To help scared kids. To keep promises. To make sure that 8-year-olds like you don't have to count minutes in closets while their mothers die. You reminded me of that, Emma. You and your mom saved me just as much as I saved you. Sarah's hand rested on Emma's shoulder. I still can't believe how much our lives have changed. 6 months ago we were trapped. Now we own our building, the business is growing, Emma feels safe, all because she dialed a wrong number that turned out to be exactly right. Marcus stood up, holding Emma's essay carefully. Not a wrong number. The right number at the right time. Sometimes the universe gets things right. Sometimes the person who answers the phone is exactly the person who should answer. He took his coffee to his usual table by the window. Emma pulled out her homework and sat across from him, working on math problems while Marcus read the newspaper. Sarah served customers, the shop filling with the warm aroma of coffee and cinnamon and hope. Outside, Riverside continued its gentle transformation. Inside, 3 people who'd found each other through crisis had built something that looked like family. Not the kind you're born with, the kind you choose, the kind that forms when someone keeps a promise, when 8 minutes becomes a second chance, when caring proves stronger than fear. Marcus sipped his 450 vanilla latte and thought about Catherine, about how she'd asked him to help other scared kids, about how he'd forgotten that promise for 30 years until Emma's voice on the phone reminded him what mattered. 8 minutes had changed everything. 8 minutes of terror had become 8 minutes of transformation. And every Saturday morning, over a 450 coffee, Marcus Donovan proved that even the hardest heart could learn that real strength isn't about being powerful enough to never get hurt. It's about being brave enough to care, even when caring makes you vulnerable. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove redemption is possible when you answer the call for help. Stay tuned for the next story that will restore your faith in second chances and the power of kept promises.